All right, good morning, everybody. It is 10 o'clock on Thursday, September 8th, 2022. For anybody that's watching this video after and back on replay on YouTube. So please be aware that some things may have changed since we did tape this video. So I want to welcome everyone to the session. As always, I will turn it over to Ralston and Kristen. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
All right, good morning. This class is going to be fun. Well, kind of. We're going to take a walk down your digital footprint as an agent. Now, when we onboard new agents to our company, we try our best to make sure that you've converted your online presence over to Berkshire Hathaway and that we don't have any stragglers out there from your previous company or just things that you may not have realized that have remained on the internet for quite some time. And so Kristen's going to walk through kind of your digital footprint with you today. And I think this is going to be a great exercise for all of our agents. I know we've got some of our managers and some of our staff on this meeting. Please do take a lot of great notes because this is going to be a big help for helping our agents kind of manage what they've got online. There's a lot of little things that when you put them out there, they stay out there, and sometimes we don't know how to chase them down. So I'm going to hand over to Kristen Fredericks right now. Kristen is the digital administrator with our marketing team, and she's going to take you through this course. Kristen.
All right, thank you. I do promise to make this painless, Kimberly. Thank you for volunteering today. So you actually have a great online presence, so I think that this will be a great example to use. Okay, as Ralston said, one of the things that we do when we bring agents on board, whether you're new, whether you're experienced, if you are trying to just redo some of your online marketing, whatever you're trying to do, one of the first things you'll hear us say is, what do you look like on the internet? And it's a really important piece to this. And we find that there are a lot of places where agents may need some help, where things may not have been updated. And it really is a reflection of you online. You should consider it basically your online storefront, but it's also your online business card. How many times have you been with somebody in line or somebody recommended something to you? And the first thing you do is you go on the internet, you hit Google, and you're like, type in that person's name, or you type in that company, or you type in, that business name, and you're trying to see, okay, do they have good reviews? What do they look like online? Who is this person? What is this company? Do I want to work with them? And it's really the first place that people go at this point. And it's such an important piece of your marketing. Consider this the absolute foundation of all of your online marketing. If your foundation is good, the rest of your house will be fine. All right. Let me save here. So where can you be found? This is not an inclusive list here, but there may be some surprises on here for you. Obviously, we're going to talk about social media today a little bit, but we're also going to talk about things like your website, your email signature, social media, your Google profile. Hopefully, you guys went to my classes last month on the Google profiles. That was a kind of a big class for us to do. It's becoming more and more important. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to start building those. Your email signatures, your real estate search portals. Yes, I don't want to say the big Z in the room, but it's still a place that you need to make sure that your profile is correct. The MLS profile. How many of you know that you actually have the ability to adjust your MLS profile and what people see when you go onto the MLS? A lot of people have never filled out their profile, or it's filled out with information from when you first joined. And I can use myself as an example because I have a 4-digit MLS number. Which tells you how long I have been in our MLS system. I know that in the company we have somebody with 2 and we have somebody with 3, so I'm not alone. But all of that information in your MLS profile tends to stick with you. And it's all used now on things like rain.com. It's also used for sending out save searches to your clients, which you should be doing through your website. But you should also update your MLS profile. Big pro tip here, this whole thing just starts with your name. First thing that we like to do, and you can go ahead and do this while we're talking here, is to just type your name into Google and see what happens. And start taking a look at what you look like on page 1. All right, let's get into this here. So your online profiles, I'm going to give you a couple of tips here, and we're going to take a look at all of these different things. But these are the most important things as you're going through this audit to make sure that you're double checking, to make sure that are correct, make sure that they're formatted correctly, make sure that they're how you want to be found online. And then we can go from there. So the first thing we actually talk about are usernames. Now you would think, why? Username seems to be pretty innocuous, but it's not. An interesting thing for those of you who've taken my Google class before, you know that your username is important because your Google business profile is an aggregator. There is no place in your Google business profile to put all of the links of where you can be found online. It doesn't exist. So one of the things that happens is that Google goes out and says, okay, this person's username is Mary Agent Realtor. I found a Mary Agent Realtor in the same service area with a Facebook profile. Okay, let's attach it here. I found another Mary Agent Realtor on Twitter and it's in the same service area. So let's attach it to this profile, and it's going to continue to go ahead and build like that. The other thing that you'll see too is that as you start to get more and more into your online digital media, as you get into your online profiles, people are going to start to search for you by your username. So your username should match as much as you can. Now, we know that it can't match everywhere. We know that, for example, your Twitter usernames, if you guys want to use Twitter for business, can't be quite as long as something like your Facebook username. It can't be quite as long as something like your Instagram username. And we know that. So try to get pretty close if you can. Your name is a great place to start. I know that we have some agents who feel like they have some unusual names or something that might be difficult to spell or something that's really common. If you are using any kind of branding phrase, for example, or if you are using kind of a persona, in your DBA, go ahead and make that your username instead of your name if you feel like you need to do that as well. The one thing we caution about usernames more than anything else when people come to us is don't put yourself into a corner. So instead of saying something like your name, for example, we may have someone who says Virginia Beach waterfront real estate, and that's going to be their Facebook name. That's going to be, they use that as their online profiles. They use it as everything. And then as they go along in their career, they realize that they're doing more and more business in Norfolk or Virginia, in Virginia Beach or Chesapeake. And all of a sudden, all of their usernames over the years have been reliant on this one very particular phrase. We find this a lot, especially when people are really thinking about ramping up their business or maybe getting into a new area, or even people who, of course, are new to building their online profiles. So it's a mistake that's made often, but the key here is make sure that it's something that's easily identifiable to you. So your name is perfect. And then also make sure that you try to match it all across your online profiles. Now, you can change your usernames. It's fairly easy. The only one that's really difficult might be Facebook, and that is changing your @name on there. They do have a waiting period just to make sure that you haven't been hacked, to make sure that it makes sense, to make sure that you're not trying to take your business page and turn it into something else. The waiting period right now is usually 3 to 7 days. But as long as you're making kind of a professional transition on a username, you should be just fine. The next thing you need to look at is your company. I know this seems really self-explanatory, but it's amazing how many people do not put the company that they work for on any of their profiles. One of the reasons that we encourage you to do that is because it ties you in with those local service areas. It ties you in with all of the digital media and marketing that we're doing as well. When people are searching for things, keywords, something like BHHS real estate agent, and believe it or not, people search on BHHS and Berkshire Hathaway all the time. We see it in our own analytics, and that they might be searching for a realtor, for an agent, and something near me. You need to make sure that you have your company on there. You also need it for disclosure purposes. We do find that people build, especially something like an Instagram profile, and they don't put on there that they're actually a realtor or what company that they work for. And it's really, really important, especially on some of these social media profiles where things aren't necessarily one click. And that includes using something, let's just take Instagram, for example. If you're using a link tree and as your bio profile link, and you click on that, and it goes to, of course, a link tree that has all of your links on it, but it only has your headshot and maybe your name on it, and it doesn't disclose anywhere that you are working for a particular company. It doesn't have your contact information. It doesn't have your address. It doesn't have all the things that were required by disclosure. You've used up your one click. Okay. So make sure that if you're using something like that, that you have all of that information in there. But the safer thing to do more than anything else is to make sure you have your company correct. We bring up company more often than anything else because of a couple of things. One is LinkedIn. That's probably the one place we see it the most. There's two errors that happen on LinkedIn fairly often with agents. One is that when they come on board from another company, you may not have gone back and changed your company. So if I were to Google you today, I would see that you worked for 2 companies ago or a company ago. For those of you who have been through the mergers and acquisitions that we've had, you may still have a profile that still has your old company in it. The other thing that we see with company is that sometimes when you go into something like LinkedIn, for example, and you are able to connect the actual company page to your own, it's really important because it starts to identify you on various online rosters and directories and things like that. We find that agents tend to just go ahead and type in the name, but they don't actually type in the name and connect it to the company. You can actually do this on Facebook. You can do this on LinkedIn. And as soon as you see that profile, or you see that live link, you know that you've connected it correctly to the correct company page. And I hope that we'll be able to take a look at what that looks like when we go ahead and do a live profile here. Email address. This sounds really silly. But we have agents who are using old email addresses, different places. We have agents who are using lots of different email addresses. You may have a personal one somewhere. You may have a professional one somewhere else. You might have an old one somewhere. For those of you who went ahead and took advantage of our vanity domains, you may not have updated your email address everywhere you want it to be. As somebody who needs to sometimes look up an email address and it might not be in my address book, it is important to make sure that you have that email address out there and that it is correct. Email addresses are one of the things that are also used to tie accounts together. We actually use it on Town Central to make sure that your single sign-ons, those SSOs, the ability to click a button and go into different places works correctly. We actually base that on a lot of different email addresses, and we need to make sure that it's correct everywhere. You would be surprised as you start to log in the number of email addresses that might be old, maybe again, an old company, maybe it's an old email address. It also makes it very difficult for verification when you need to be able to log into something and it's going to ask you for a multi-factor authentication and it wants to either send you a text message or an email. We find that it does either one. If your email address is not correct, if it's not current, then you will not be able to get that multi-factor authentication link, and then you may not be able to access your account easily. You may have to go through other channels to do that. All right, number 4, we're going to talk about descriptions and bios. The description and bio is so important, and it's available on every single online profile you have. It's available on your website. We have bio pages for everyone. We have a lot of agents who have never put out a bio at all. And it's a really important piece for people who are going and searching for you. And then also the description of your business. It doesn't have to do with just your bio. A description can also be something like, I am a real estate agent who services a particular area, or I service a particular type of house, or here are all the markets that I serve. Here are the things that I do for homeowners and home buyers. I am a military relocation specialist. I help first-time home buyers. I am a relocation expert. I am an expert in REOs and short sales. Whatever it happens to be, all of those different things are important to put in your descriptions and bios because nearly every bio is searchable by search engines. I'm going to say that again. Nearly every bio and description is searchable by search engines. This means that you have the ability to write the keywords and search engine optimization that you want Google to find and you want Google to see in your profile. It's also really important just from a get to know you standpoint. How many times have you gone onto a website looking for someone and they have no about me information? You're trying to use them for some kind of service and you don't have the ability to get to know them. You don't have the ability to resonate with them. It's a really important piece to put on here. If you have difficulty writing a bio, we can certainly help you in marketing. But there's a pretty good formula for doing a bio that you can kind of follow. And don't forget, it doesn't have to be really long. It just needs to talk about essentially who you are, where you came from, where you're going, what you believe in. So if somebody were to sit down in front of you and say, why should I list my home with you? Every single person who's here really does have that little bit of speech that you have. It's just a couple of seconds long, couple of, it doesn't have to be anything major. It just says, hey, this is how I got into the industry. This is what I believe in. This is where I come from. Some things that might resonate with other people, maybe what your kids do, where you graduated from, previous jobs, anything like that that could go in there. Just a kind of a get to know you piece. It doesn't need to be much, and it can also be in paragraph and bullet form. And by the way, Google loves bullet points. So if you write an introduction paragraph and then put all of your pertinent information in bullet points, Google loves it. Your photo. This should be self-explanatory, but it's not always. It's amazing to me the number of places that we have to put our photos. We try as many places as we can for the things that we can manage in-house. So if you submit a new photo to marketing, of course, we go ahead and change all of the online profiles that we provide for you. So all of your things like BHHS resource and your website and things like that, we can go ahead and change all of those. But you do need to go ahead and change your photo on all of the other channels. That includes going back to something like your MLS profile, making sure that you go ahead and upload that new profile photo into your MLS profile. It means making sure that you've updated your email signature with the new photo. It means going into all these different online portals, make sure that your Instagram, your Facebook, your business page, whatever it is all updated with your updated photo. Many times we find agents who have lots and lots of different photos out there, and we struggle to go which one is the most recent one for you. That takes me to channel art. So channel art can be anything from a background image. It can be your Facebook cover page. It can be your LinkedIn cover page. Channel art can even extend to your MLS profile. Did you know that you can actually choose a banner to put on top of all those emails that might go out to your clients? That can actually be branded to you. So all of those things are considered channel art for us, and they should all be visually similar. We can help you with this in marketing. If you put in a marketing order form, you can actually request something like a Facebook cover photo. You can request a LinkedIn cover photo to match. Maybe some of the guys are using YouTube, especially through Paradigm. If you guys are doing a lot of listing, you can certainly request a YouTube background photo as well to make sure that your image matches everything. So this could just be something, an image that you use in all of your other marketing. It could be your name styling. It could just be a reflection of your business. It could be BHHS branded. We do an awful lot of those where it's just a really nice sold sign in front of a house with your name and information on it. It can be as simple as that all the way up to a true branding piece that you might use that matches everything else. But you'll want to make sure that your channel art is up to date. And you also want to make sure that it's visually appealing. Okay. All right, a couple more things here. Let's talk about our calls to action. Almost all of our online profiles, almost all of our online presence has calls to action available on it. Facebook has what they actually call the call to action button on it on your business profile. You are able to make it an email. You're able to make it a text. You're able to make it a phone call if you want to. You're able to push it off to a website. LinkedIn has the same thing. You're actually able to do calls to action buttons on there. Instagram is the same. You're able to go ahead and put a couple of calls to action and then be able to put that link either to your link tree or a link to your website. Whatever it is, make sure that your calls to action are filled out. You want people to be able to access you easily, but you also want to be able to provide services where you can. So any opportunity that you can to have a call to action, call me today for, contact me, text me anytime, email me at. We also use calls to action on our website. Things like how much is your home worth? Sign up for Property Watch. get market trends, see neighborhood reports, whatever it happens to be. Make sure any of those calls to action that you can fill out are filled out on all of your different profiles. And make sure that whatever you're filling out with your call to action either gives them something of value. So in this case, it might be something like how much is your home worth? You get that free instant report, or it's a way that they can actually contact you. If you have on your Facebook page that you want somebody to call you, but you're a person who never picks up their phone, you may want to switch your call to action to email me. If you're a person who's always on the go, you don't necessarily get back to somebody right away, you may want to switch that to view my website instead and kind of push people off to your website. Whatever your call to action is, just make sure that it's something that you can respond to quickly and make sure that, again, or it gives somebody something of value. Service areas and descriptions. This is really, really important. If you went to my Google class, you know how important this is. We're seeing this more and more being built into profiles where this never existed before. So this comes into play in things like your Google business profile. This comes into play in things like the Big Z, which we're not going to talk about. This comes into play on your Realtor.com profile. This comes into play in LinkedIn, where you can actually choose one of two things or both. Service descriptions. Let's go with those first. A lot of profiles, especially in global media. So let's talk about things like your Google business profile. Ask you to choose your service. What are you? And you need to be able to choose what industry you're in. So in this case, you can say you're a real estate agent. You can also choose in your Google profile your service areas. You can go ahead and put in a list of 20 different cities that you want to use. You can also have sub areas. Google has a lot of sub areas in there as well, where you can say, these are the places I service and this is what I am. And without those two things in there, you will not show up online and you will not show up in online searches. Facebook has started to get into service areas as well. You'll notice that there's a new service area box in Facebook where you can actually go ahead and choose your service. And they also have service descriptions in Facebook. If you've never filled out your services section, I highly recommend that you do. Services can be anything from first-time home buyers with a link off to your website with information about that. It can be just be home buyers, home sellers. For those of you who are in property management, it can be, rentals and property management. Those are two very different services. You can do lots of different things in your service descriptions, and make sure that if you have anywhere that you can fill out what your service area is, that you have filled out every single last service area that you possibly can. All right, and last but certainly not least, keywords and hashtags. And this kind of goes along with everything else I've talked about up above here. So things like keywords, we see a lot of times in a profile, and I'm just going to take Instagram, for example, just because it's an easy one, where you have your username, you have your basic description, and then you have a link off to your website, but you never actually tell anybody what you're doing or where you are. And that's where those keywords and hashtags come in that are so important. So for things like your Instagram profile, for example, when you're putting in, there's no service descriptions or areas in there, but there is a place to put some text. There is a place to put a nice bulleted list in that bio. You're going to want to go ahead and put something like serving all of Williamsburg, York County, whatever it happens to be, to make sure that you're picking up those keywords. Now, don't think like a realtor when you're doing your keywords. Think like how somebody would actually search online. So you could do something like looking for Newport News homes for sale. Newport News homes for sale is a great keyword. So you could put something in your description or your service area, whatever it happens to be, looking for homes in Newport News. Click here and send them off to the neighborhood report page for Newport News. Specializing in Virginia Beach waterfront homes, Virginia Beach oceanfront homes, Virginia Beach ocean homes, whatever it happens to be. Those are all ways that people actually search online versus how we perceive ourselves when we're in the industry. So when you're thinking about your bio, when you're thinking about your service descriptions, when you're thinking about filling out those profiles, try to interject here and there those keywords that you think that people might search on that would lead them directly to you for a very specific purpose. Okay. Hashtags are kind of the same way. We always encourage everyone to have a personal hashtag. online. Just makes things nice and easy for people to be able to kind of connect all the dots with all of your social media whenever possible. You can use hashtags on just about everything now. And then you also want to use hashtags that are important to specific industry areas. For example, we have 757 is of course a big hashtag here. So is HRVA, or things like hashtags. Location hashtags can get you a lot of traction. If you are at a specific place, or if you are if you're talking about a specific city, go ahead and use those hashtags and use those location tags just to kind of tie you in with all of that local profile. You'll see us talk about this more and more coming up in the next few months, about how important this local online digital marketing is. And all of this is laying the foundation for local digital marketing. Even Google recognizes that, just like real estate, everything is local. And it's really important that you try to tag yourself and try to make sure that you have everything that you can fill out possibly to show your service areas, your localness, your online persona as you go through your digital audit here.
Kristen,
I'm happy to take any questions you have.
I have a question. I'm Charlia. I'm with Mount Pleasant office, but
Sure.
I have a question because I'm licensed in North Carolina as well as Virginia, but we just switched over to the Flex MLS, and I'm just learning how to use it. And I don't know if you would know this, but do they have the same ability on their MLS like the MLS here, where you have your page the same way, like the search engines there and everything? Because I haven't been able to locate it.
No,
Like I can go in and okay.
RAIN is a very unique entity. There are only a few MLSs in our country that have the kind of presence that RAIN does, that is directly competing with brokerage websites in a cooperative, competitive way. Houston is one place that has something like that. There's a couple of other big MLSs that also do. So it is very unique to our area that you have that kind of profile in your MLS that is ranking the way it does with RAIN.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions from anybody? I hope you found all this information useful. This is, again, a great way to build your foundation, especially going into 2023, just to kind of out with the old, in with the new, make sure that you are perfectly found online, and make sure that you're taking advantage of as many different online avenues as you can, and make sure that all of your information is the same. There is a checklist that goes along with this class that I will be sending to Tim to make sure that everything is good to go. And then he will be able to send this out to you guys who attended this today, so that you can kind of go through each of your profiles. Again, it's not 100% inclusive because everybody's going to be a little bit different, but it should give you an idea of what you can change, where you should change, and kind of just give you a checklist just to, as you kind of go through all of your different profiles here.
All right. Any other questions for Kristen?
I
Yep,
do.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So my Google profile, I have attempted to change the my brokerage several times. I'm a part of HomeSnap Pro. I've talked to them. Every time I go on Google, it has my old brokerage up there.
Okay.
How can I've tried it personally, and it says it's being reviewed, but nothing changes. I'll go back and still see my old pro.
Do you have access to your actual Google business profile to edit it?
Well, when I reached out to Home Snap Pro, I thought that's how, and they said I could go through them and do it, and it's just nothing happening. I did it I went to my Google profile, and then I went to update. I believe it was update. I put in Berkshire. I did all that stuff, and nothing changed. I'm probably doing something wrong, but is there any way someone can help me with that?
We can. So HomeSnap, I will tell you, is in the business of creating profiles. They are not in the business of helping you maintain it.
Okay.
So, and we have found this more and more often, which is one of the reasons why we say that you should always have control of your Google business profile. It doesn't sound like you do, because it sounds like if it was changed and put into review, it sounds like you may have tried to change it as if you were a consumer.
Okay.
So the best thing you can do is call HomeSnap and have them add you as an administrator on your Google Business profile, so that you can access it directly and make direct changes to it, in which case those changes usually happen instantaneously. If you become an administrator of your Google Business profile and or it's still not changing, just reach out to web support at bhhstown.com and we will try to help you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Kristen, I have a question here for you.
Sure.
Thoughts on frames over profile photos for social media?
I mean, as long as you're not going to show up on the 6 o'clock news and it doesn't violate fair housing, I'm totally okay with that. Just know that frames can get outdated. A lot of people have put COVID-19 frames. They've put support something frames. I still see occasionally Olympic frames from 5 years ago, whatever it was. And those frames do get outdated and people forget to go back and change them. If you are not in the habit of wanting to change your profile, I would leave it as is. If you're a kind of person who loves to play with frames, go for it. I will tell you, frames are being phased out of especially Facebook. They actually cut off people being able to use custom frames during COVID, and that feature has not come back. So right now, the frames that are in there are Facebook generated or generated by Facebook approved brands only. And I kind of see that as probably a phase out of being able to do a lot of custom framing on there. So.
This says was referring to a frame with the brokerage on it.
I mean, again, it's kind of that same thing. You would have to make sure that you updated it every single time. I don't see it necessarily. I don't see it being a necessity to do. So if you have everything else branded correctly and all of your links correct and your cover arts and your channel arts and everything else, talk about the brokerage. You don't need to do it to your profile photo as well.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for attending. As always, Haley will get these edited up and posted on YouTube probably Monday or Tuesday. If you do have any questions in the meantime, feel free to send an email to training@bhhstown.com, or you can reach out to web support at bhhstown if you have any questions on this as well. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Kristen as always. We will see her back in about 20 minutes if you're signed up for the 11 o'clock Site Builder Client Portal. Otherwise, we might see you at 12 o'clock for the closing process. Thanks, everyone, and have a good rest of your day if you're not coming back.